There's a moment many people don't talk about. It doesn't happen all at once. It arrives slowly, maybe the day you stopped kneeling in the garden because it hurt too much to rise, or when you began avoiding stairs, even though you used to climb them without thinking, or when the jar wouldn't open and for a second you felt helpless. These are not dramatic moments. They're quiet, but they mark something deeper, the beginning of strength slipping away. And with it, a little piece of your freedom. You may have noticed it already. Not just the body changing, but the way life begins to feel smaller, a little more careful, a little more confined. And the hardest part? It's not about age. It's about being overlooked, even by your own body. You're told that's just aging and you try to accept it. But what if they're wrong? What if the loss of strength we call normal is actually neglect? What if it's not aging? It's forgetting to move like we still matter. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, one of Japan's most respected physicians, lived past 100. Into his 90s, he walked 2,000 steps every day. Not to build muscle, but to keep it, to keep walking, bending, rising, and living. He believed in something very simple. The body responds to attention, and it withdraws from neglect. He taught that movement, even in old age, is not a luxury. It's a form of self-respect. Modern science agrees. Dr. Peter Attia calls it the centenarian decathlon. No, not a race, but a vision. Preparing today for the tasks you want to do at 95. Getting up from the floor, carrying groceries, hugging a grandchild, sitting on the porch and standing again without help. These are not small things. They are life. But here's what few people tell you. Long before we notice it, we begin to lose muscle. Slowly, silently. This is called sarcopenia, a quiet erosion that begins around 50 and speeds up when we sit too long, when we stop lifting, reaching, bending. It doesn't announce itself with pain. It shows up when you hesitate to get out of a chair, when you fall and struggle to rise, when your steps shorten and your world shrinks. But it doesn't have to continue this way, because strength, just like memory, can be called back. It can be fed, encouraged, protected, even rebuilt, if we learn how to send the right signals. And that's what this video is about. Today, I want to offer you more than advice. I want to walk with you through simple, daily ways to keep and recover the strength that aging tries to take. You don't need heavy weights or fancy routines. What you need is intention, a rhythm, a reason to believe that your body still wants to carry you, if only you'll ask it to. This is not about looking younger. It's about moving with confidence. It's about feeling capable again, in the kitchen, in the garden, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Because strength at this stage is not for show. It's for survival, for dignity, for continuing to say, I can. And if you've ever wondered whether it's too late, whether the window has already closed, let me say this as clearly as I can. It's not. Not if you begin now. Not if you begin gently. Not if you begin for yourself. So take a deep breath. Let's start not with fear, but with possibility. Not with pressure, but with respect for your pace, your story, and your hope. Let's begin this journey into strength. One thoughtful, loving step at a time. It often begins with something so simple that most people don't even notice. A little more effort to rise from the chair. A brief pause before climbing stairs. A hand reaching for support when getting out of bed. These moments are not dramatic, but they are telling. What's quietly disappearing in the background is one of the most important muscles for your independence, the quadriceps. This group of muscles, located in the front of your thighs, is the very foundation for almost everything you do. Standing, walking, sitting, lifting yourself up from the toilet or the garden bench. And yet, it's often the first to grow weaker after 60. Why? Because walking alone, as common and helpful as it is, isn't enough to maintain strength in this area. Many elders believe they're staying active by taking walks, and they are. But walking doesn't fully engage or challenge the thighs. The result? Each year, the legs surrender a little more strength, until one day, they no longer rise without help. There's a quiet test that speaks volumes. Researchers at Oxford found that the time it takes to stand up from a chair without using your arms is one of the strongest predictors of future hospitalization, loss of mobility, and even lifespan. Not because it's a magical test, but because it reveals how deeply our strength is tied to our autonomy. If rising from a chair becomes a struggle, so does every other part of life. The stairs, the bathroom, the walk to the mailbox. The world gets smaller, and with it, so does our sense of freedom, but not everywhere. On the island of Icaria, one of the blue zones where people live well into their 90s and beyond, elders bend and rise every day. Not at the gym, but in their gardens picking herbs, in their kitchens kneading bread, in their fields tending goats. These movements, squatting, lifting, balancing, are woven into their daily lives. They don't train their legs, they use them, and in doing so, they protect the very muscles that so many elsewhere are losing in silence. There's something beautiful about that, because it reminds us that preserving strength doesn't have to be extreme. It just has to be consistent, meaningful, and part of a life that moves. One of the most revealing habits you can observe in yourself is how you rise from a chair, slowly, with effort, maybe even with a sound, a sigh, a groan, or the reaching for the armrest. If you try rising 5 times in a row without using your hands and feel tired or unsteady, it's not failure, it's a signal. And signals are good, because they mean something can still be done. In Icaria, strength is protected not by weight machines but by continuity, by routines that repeat, quietly, day after day. In modern life, we have to be more intentional. Practicing slow, supported sit-to-stands, even just 2 sets a day, holding onto something sturdy, can begin to reawaken the thighs, not for performance but for presence, for participation in your own life. Because here is a truth that deserves to be spoken plainly. If you cannot rise without help, your independence is already at risk. That may sound harsh, but it is not meant to scare. It is meant to honor the reality of aging and remind us that strength, even now, is worth protecting. You are not chasing youth. You are preserving your ability to stay in your home, prepare your own meals, enjoy your garden, visit your neighbor. These are not small things. These are the moments that shape dignity and the path to protecting them. It begins at the thighs in that first slow rise, in that small but vital movement that says, I am still here, I am still able. There's a quiet routine that unfolds in many homes. A slice of toast, maybe some butter, a cup of coffee, warm and comforting. The morning feels peaceful, familiar, but beneath that quiet simplicity, the body waits for something else. Something it no longer produces with ease, and yet needs more than ever. The signal to maintain muscle. After 60, the body doesn't process protein the way it once did. What used to be enough is no longer sufficient. The mechanism that builds and repairs muscle, called muscle protein synthesis, begins to slow down like a wheel that needs more effort to turn. Without the right fuel at the right time, it turns less and less. Not because we've done anything wrong, but because the body is asking for more, and we didn't know how to listen. Many people believe they eat enough protein throughout the day, a little at lunch, some at dinner. But what the studies reveal, especially from researchers at Tufts University, is that when you eat protein matters as much as how much. Older adults often miss their most important window, the morning, and that gap, repeated day after day, leaves the muscles underfed and unprotected, like a field waiting for seeds that never arrive. The body after 60 needs around 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But more importantly, it needs that protein to be distributed throughout the day, not saved for a heavy dinner when the metabolism is slowing down. The morning, often forgotten, is the key. Within the first 2 hours after waking, the body is most ready to receive the signal. Stay strong, keep building, you're still needed. In Japan, this rhythm is part of tradition. Elders begin their day not with sugar but with nourishment. Miso soup rich in fermented soy, a boiled egg, grilled fish, warm rice. These meals are not extravagant, they are deliberate. They tell the body and the mind that strength is still a priority, that the day begins with energy, not depletion. And perhaps that is something we can learn, even in small, quiet ways. A soft-boiled egg with lentils, Greek yogurt with seeds, a bowl of miso with tofu and greens. Each one offers not just protein but a message. We are still investing in this body. We are still choosing strength. Because muscles don't store protein for later. They need regular reminders, regular care, regular nourishment. Not in excess, but in rhythm. Feeding your muscles isn't about piling your plate. It's about offering your body what it needs when it can use it best. There's something deeply human about that. About rising in the morning and honoring the body with what it truly needs. Not just the comfort of routine, but the quiet discipline of care. This is not about numbers or grams. It's about remembering that the body still listens, that it still responds, That even after 60 it is still building, and if we give it the chance. So while others may overlook the morning meal, you now understand, it's not just breakfast. It's a doorway, a signal, a promise to your muscles that they are still seen, still wanted, and still worthy of support. There are days when the body doesn't move much, not because of laziness, but because life itself becomes smaller. The tasks are fewer, the world outside feels more distant, and so the hours pass quietly from one chair to another, with pauses in between. But what seems like rest can sometimes become erosion. When we sit still for too long, something changes deep within the muscle fibers. Not dramatically, not in pain, but in silence. Just 90 minutes of uninterrupted sitting can trigger a slowing of the mitochondria, the tiny engines inside our cells that keep our muscles strong and active. And once this slowdown begins, it takes far more to wake it back up than it took to let it slip. The body reads stillness as a message. This muscle is no longer needed. It doesn't judge. It simply adapts. And that's where the real risk lies. Not in a missed workout, but in the quiet hours where the body waits and hears nothing from us. Even among elders who stay active, with daily walks or occasional exercise, this invisible danger can remain. Because it's not just about how much we move in a day. It's about how long we stay still in between. The total hours of sedentariness weigh more heavily than we think. But not in Okinawa. There, elders rarely sit for long stretches. They don't set alarms to move or wear fitness trackers. They simply live in a rhythm where motion is woven into the day. Washing vegetables, carrying buckets, walking across the yard to greet a neighbor. Movement doesn't happen in a scheduled block. It flows like breath, always returning. This is not about turning your day into a gym routine. It's about remembering that the body craves signals, even small ones. A shift in position, a slow walk to the window, standing to stretch while the tea brews. These moments don't seem like exercise, but they whisper to your muscles, "Stay with me. I'm still here." Some call it movement microdosing, a simple practice of standing, lifting the heels, pressing against the wall, shifting weight from one foot to the other every 30 to 60 minutes. These are not workouts. They are offerings, reminders, invitations for the muscles to stay awake. And perhaps most importantly, this movement carries something more than physical benefit. It carries dignity, a message that says, I still want to participate. I still want to move through my day with presence. Because movement isn't optional. It's not an extra. It's oxygen for the muscles. It is what tells the body that life is still unfolding, that we are still responding, still present, still needed. So as the day unfolds and the stillness begins to grow, remember this. It doesn't take hours of effort to stay strong. It takes awareness. It takes care. It takes a quiet decision, again and again, to keep sending signals, no matter how small. To keep choosing motion like choosing to breathe. There's a quiet hesitation many feel when they hear the words strength training. Images come to mind, of gyms filled with mirrors, loud music, weights stacked like mountains. It can feel distant, uninviting, as if building strength belongs only to the young. But this idea, so common and so limiting, has stolen years of vitality from countless people who simply didn't know another way. The truth is that most strength advice was never written with elders in mind. It assumes fast joints, youthful tendons, and perfect balance. It forgets that the body over 60 carries history, a hip replacement, a sore shoulder, a memory of falling once and not quite trusting the ground since. And so, many try to follow plans made for someone else, only to feel pain, discouragement, or fear, and they stop. But strength at this stage of life isn't about lifting heavy, it's about lifting wisely. It's not about reaching a goal. It's about reclaiming something that was quietly lost. Control, stability, the ability to trust your legs again, to lift a pot from the stove, to push yourself out of bed without bracing. Science has begun to understand this more clearly. The nervous system, the vast network that tells muscles how and when to move, becomes slower with age. Not weaker, just slower to respond. This means that rapid, intense exercises can overwhelm rather than help. But slow, focused movements? They speak the body's language. They give time for connection, time for control to return. In Loma Linda, California, another one of the world's blue zones, elders aren't sprinting or deadlifting. They're gardening, carrying water, using resistance bands with calm, rhythmic effort, water aerobics, light dumbbells, movement that fits into life rather than breaks it apart. They don't train for performance, they train for presence, for the ability to stay involved in their own routines, cooking, walking, attending community gatherings, living with grace. And they've done this not for weeks or months, but for decades. A gentle structure can be found in what some call the strength week. Just 3 muscle groups, 2 sets, 3 times a week, no pressure, no perfection. The legs, through sit to stands or step-ups. The push, through incline or wall-supported push-ups. The pull, through resistance bands or rowing motions that mimic the act of drawing open a curtain or pulling a heavy door. Functional, familiar, meaningful, because lifting isn't about youth, it's about usefulness. It's about ensuring your arms are still strong enough to embrace, that your back can carry the groceries without strain, that your legs remember how to support you, and not just on good days. Strength training, done with care and respect, becomes something more than a health practice. It becomes a quiet declaration, I will not disappear. Not into a chair, not into a room where others do things for you, not into a body that no longer answers your call. It is a way of staying in conversation with your body, a way of saying, I'm still here, and I still choose to move. The strongest elders are not those who never slowed down, but those who kept sending signals to their body, quiet, steady ones. A step to the kitchen, a rise from the chair, a stretch while waiting for the kettle to boil. Dr. Hinohara believed energy came from purpose, not age. And Dan Buettner's centenarians moved not because they trained, but because they lived in motion, cooking, planting, offering help. They stayed strong not through intensity, but through rhythm. Strength isn't stored in muscles. It's stored in choices, in meals that feed, not just fill, in movements that say, I still belong in this life. Even now, your body listens. It doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for signals, signals of care, of use, of relevance. Your muscles remember. They remember how you've carried others, and now they ask to be carried in return, not with force, but with kindness. So the question is not, can I still be strong? The question is, where will I place my strength today? Not in proving anything, but in preparing for what matters. Your next step, your next lift, your next reach, done not for anyone else, but for yourself.